Kiara, everyone! My name is Jo,
And I'm Roxanne.
and we're delighted to be with you today to conduct a 20-minute online workshop on how to promote flexible work and well-being in the workplace.
The rapid adoption of flexible work has placed a spotlight on our role as a senior human resource leaders to ensure that we are not only legally compliant but also creating a genuinely healthy and safe workplace.
We will be discussing the following. First, the legal and health and safety framework. Second is the health and safety risk mitigation in flexible work. Third is the human resource management practices for a healthy workplace. And fourth is the honoring treaty commitments and well-being.
Let's start with the learning outcome. So by the end of online workshop, senior human resource professionals will be able to discuss and apply how New Zealand's employment relations and health and safety at work legislation applies to flexible working arrangements and contribute to creating a healthy and safe workplace that honors our commitment under the Treaty of Waitangi. A quick overview of our history. According to WorkSafe New Zealand, workers see physical well-being as a part of a holistic model of Hawara, which includes Ti Taha Tinana, physical health, Ti Taha Hinangaro, mental emotional, Ti Taha Fanu, social family, Ti Taha Wairua, spiritual. So the model highlights that for a person to be well, all four walls of the house must be strong and balanced with a solid foundation. So it encourages the leaders to see their employees as a whole people with interconnected that needs that require from a strong, stable house of well-being. Before we implement on promoting flexible work and well-being in the workplace, so let's have a brief summary of legal and health and safety framework that will bring us concise and standard guidelines through the Employment Relations Act. As human resource professionals in Itaroa, you know that the right to request flexible work is a statutory right for all employees. It's a mechanism for promoting a better work-life balance and in a more responsive workplace. In New Zealand, all employees can request a change to their working arrangements at any time for any reason. They can ask for a permanent change or a temporary one. Employers must consider this request in good faith and can only refuse them for a valid business reason as specified in the law. So what does good faith mean in practice for us? So it is a cornerstone of our employment relations system that both an employee and their employer will act honestly and reasonably toward each other, without malice or ulterior motives, particularly when dealing with flexible work requests. It means engaging in a genuine, transparent, and fair process. For example, if a team member requests to change their hours to pick up their children from school, an employer can say simply no without exploring options. The law dictates that a formal response must be provided within 1 month, and any refusal must be in writing with specific and justifiable grounds. What are the acceptable reasons for refusal? So these are first, inability to reorganize work among existing staff. Second, detrimental impact on performance or quality. Third, plan structure changes such as a planned restructure or relocation. And fourth, detrimental impact on meeting customer demand. Now, let's connect flexible work at our Health and Safety at Work Act. As senior human resource leaders, you are aware that a PCBU or a person conducting a business or undertaking has the primary duty of care for their workers. This duty extends to providing a not only safe physical well-being, but as well as psychological health. The critical question here is what constitutes the workplace when an employee is working from home? So the act is clear. So the workplace includes any place where work is carried out for the business. So this means your health and safety obligations extend to the employee's home office. Our role is to proactively manage these risks. Physically, this involves ensuring the home working environment is set up safely, but this may also apply at office workplace. This includes providing ergonomic equipment like a proper chair and monitor and conducting a basic health and safety risk assessment. A simple checklist can be used to empower employees to assess their own workspace, checking things like adequate lighting, comfortable desk height, and cable management. Musculoskeletal disorders. This is the most common physical risk in office and remote work. It includes injuries to muscles, nerves, tendons, and joints. Working long hours or doing tough physical jobs can lead to tiredness and injuries. So, taking regular breaks and drinking water helps you to stay safe and feel better. Employers must provide the necessary information, training, and instructions to their workers. So this includes guidance on setting up an ergonomic workstation, managing stress, and what to do in an emergency. Remote work has hidden psychological risk, like feeling lonely, having no clear line between work and personal life, and being expected to always be available, which can cause burnout. Isolation, fatigue, and the blurring of work life boundaries are one of the psychological risks. To prevent this, companies should offer tools like mental health services and train managers to recognize stress in their employees. It's also vital to build a culture where people feel trusted and can talk openly about their concerns, such as the Employee Assistance Program or the EAP, which provides access to confidential and free professional counseling and support. EAPs are valuable resources for organizations looking to support their employees' mental health and well being. So, by providing access to counseling or various support services, EAPs can help create a healthier or more productive workplace environment. So, if you're considering implementing an EAP, it's essential to choose a provider that aligns with your organization's needs and values. The second one is the wellness initiative. So offer wellness programs like subsidized gym memberships, mindfulness workshops, or mental health resources. And the third one is managing workload. Employers should have a regular review and adjust employee workloads to prevent burnout. So encourage delegation and provide the necessary tools and technology for efficient work. A simple checklist can be used to empower employees to assess their own workspace. So here's the home working environment self-assessment checklist, which was adapted from the WorkSafe New Zealand 2020. Now that we discussed the legal and health and safety framework, Joe will take us through the strategic human resource management and well-being in Aotearoa.
Thank you, Roxanne. Now, building on the legal foundation, I will now discuss how we, as a strategic human resource professionals, can apply these concepts to our policies. This is where we can move beyond simple compliance to truly create a healthy, safe, and inclusive workplace. As human resource leaders, our role is to apply these principles throughout the employee life cycle. Now, I will discuss the HRM practices for a healthy workplace. First is the recruitment and onboarding. You have to be transparent to your flexible work policies from the start. For example, excluding a clear statement about your flexible work philosophy in job advertisements. Second is performance management. The focus must shift from presenteeism to outcomes. Instead of judging performance by who is online the longest, we must evaluate it based on clear deliverables. For instance, holding a regular check-ins to review project milestones and objectives, rather than simply monitoring login times. Shifting the focus from hours worked to results achieved, this empowers employees and builds trust. So how do we prevent presenteeism? by building the culture of trust, focus on outcomes, review leave policies, manage workloads, and invest in well-being. Third is communication. Human resource needs to facilitate clear communication channels and encourage managers to have regular and meaningful check-ins. This ensures that no one is left feeling isolated or disconnected. Last is dismissal. In cases where flexible work is not a viable option, ensuring a transparent and fair process is crucial. If an employee cannot meet their performance objectives while working flexibly and all other options have been exhausted, you must follow the correct dismissal process under the Employment Relations Act. For example, thorough paper trail of performance reviews, documented conversations, and a clear, objective decision-making process is essential to ensure this dismissal is justified and procedurally fair. A powerful, real-world example of applying these practices was the COVID-19 pandemic. The sudden shift to remote work forced us to rapidly implement these flexible policies. As a key example, more than 40% of employed New Zealanders did at least some of their work from home during the initial 2020 lockdowns. We saw the importance of proactive communication from HR and senior leaders to manage anxiety and provide clear guidelines. These lessons learned during that period, such as the need for regular mental health check-ins and formal policies on things like cybersecurity and data privacy, are now shaping our approach to permanent flexible work. Let's talk about our unique professional responsibility here in Aotearoa. As human resource leaders, our commitment to the Treaty of Waitangi isn't just a legal or cultural nicety. It's a strategic imperative for building a truly inclusive and innovative workplace. Flexible work is a powerful tool to uphold these principles. We can think of the treaty through its core principles, and a strategic flexible work policy help us bring these principles to life. Tino Rangatira self-determination. We can honor this by empowering our Maori employees with greater autonomy over their work schedules and location. This links directly to the principles of Manamoto Hake participation, which ensures Maori have equitable opportunities to participate and be represented at all levels of the organization. Our policies must be designed to enhance, not hinder this participation. For example, we can ensure that flexible work options do not create barriers to career progression by setting a clear performance metrics based on outcomes rather than presenteeism. Kawanatanga, governance, and Oritetanga equity. These principles guide how we develop and apply our policies. They require that we work in a true spirit of partnership, embodying the principles of Whanangatanga partnership. This means co-designing policies with our Maori employees rather than a top-down approach. For instance, we can establish this Maori advisory group to provide direct input on flexible work options. This ensures the policy is culturally responsive, addresses specific needs related to whānau, family obligations, and respect kaupapa Maori, Maori principles and practices. Kaitiakitanga protection. This principle requires the active protection and promotion of Maori culture, language, and well-being. Our flexible work policies should be a tool to safeguard these cultural needs. Our policies should explicitly allow for flexibility to accommodate tangihanga, funerals, and other important cultural events, ensuring employees do not have to use annual leave for these commitments. This demonstrates our commitment to protecting and promoting Maori well-being. By weaving all of these principles into the fabric of our flexible work policies, we don't just achieve compliance. We build a resilient and culturally rich organization that reflects the unique needs of our nation. To recap, we have described the key legal duties under the Employment Relations and Health and Safety at Work Act. We've seen how our duty of care extends to the home environment.
And we've explored how we can apply strategic human resource management practices and a commitment to our treaty obligations to create a truly healthy, safe, and inclusive workplace for all. Thank you so much for your time and engagement. See you on our next online workshop. Bye.